We're looking back at 10 actors who were written off their TV shows right here on Listed. As shocking as it is, even actors can leave or get fired in the middle of a job. And when that happens during a TV show, there's nothing for the writers to do but find creative ways to write those characters off. So let's kick off this list with actors who were written off their TV show with Taylor Momsen, aka Jenny Humphrey from Gossip Girl. In an interview with Elle magazine back in 2011, Taylor claimed that it was her decision to leave Gossip Girl to concentrate on her music career. She told the mag, quote, "I quit acting. Actually, I quit Gossip Girl and now I tour and am in a band, and that's pretty much all I want to do. Hopefully, I'll be able to only do that for the rest of my life." So maybe she wasn't fired from the show for bad behavior like we all thought, but either way, you can't blame a girl for following her real dreams, right? Next up, Crystal Reed, aka Allison from Teen Wolf, devastated fans with her exit from the MTV series. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Crystal says it was her decision to leave Teen Wolf, saying, quote, "I felt like creatively there were things I wanted to do differently, and I wanted to explore other avenues of film and TV. I wanted to jump into different characters. You know, I'm 29, so I think the age difference was something I wanted to change as well, because my character is 17. I love the show so much, so I went to executive producer Jeff Davis, talked about it, and he said, 'We'll write you a great ending.'" Crystal later returned to the series to play a different character in a flashback scene, but she'll always be Allison to us. Moving on, when One Tree Hill came calling, actor Chad Michael Murray had to immediately leave his Gilmore Girls character Tristan Duggery behind. As much as we all love to hate Rory's classmate and bad boy crush Tristan, there's no way that Chad could have passed the opportunity to play the starring role as Lucas Scott on One Tree Hill. And thus, Tristan was abruptly sent to military school on the show. How that works out. Chad was actually asked to reprise the role in the next Gilmore Girls Netflix revival, but he declined and Tristan was recast as a completely different actor. We can't imagine any reason why Chad wouldn't want to return to Stars Hollow after having to leave the show so abruptly back in the day, but maybe he's just too busy being a dad and husband to actress Sarah Romer these days. Next on our list, as the central lead on That 70s Show, writers had a tough time writing Topher Grace's character Eric Foreman off the show. Topher decided to leave That 70s Show just before the 8th and final season, reportedly because he wanted to stop doing TV and focus on doing films. He did a couple of movies before landing a role in Spider-Man 3, but that may have been the downfall of his film career because the movie received truly terrible reviews from fans and critics alike, and he hasn't done too many things of note since. So maybe it's time for Topher to consider going back to TV, seeing as that medium was working out just fine for him back in the day. Next up, we have Jamie Lynn Spears. Her exit from Zoey 101 means the entire show and her character, Zoe Brooks, had to be canceled. Jamie Lynn revealed that she was pregnant at 16 years old, but luckily Nickelodeon shared its support for their star's decision to choose motherhood over the show in a statement that read, quote, "We respect Jamie Lynn's decision to take responsibility in this sensitive and personal situation. We know this is a very difficult time for her and her family, and our primary concern right now is for Jamie Lynn's well-being." Wow, that's nice of them. Jamie never returned to acting after the hiatus and instead launched a country singing career in 2013. And speaking of celebrity pregnancies, Glee's writers had to write Heather Morris's character Brittany Pierce off the show after she got pregnant in real life. After Brittany was shown in the last episode of season 4, it seemed that Heather's contract with the show was completely up in the air. And it was. According to reports, after Heather's pregnancy, the producers decided to minimize Brittany's role in the narrative, and the writers decided to only include her as a recurring character in the remaining 2 seasons. But at least Brittany's story got tied up nicely with her wedding to Santana in the last season, which isn't something everyone can say on this list. Moving on, Claire Holt, aka Rebecca Michelson in the originals, decided to be written out of the show for a very surprising reason. Claire said her reason for leaving the show was because she was homesick for LA, as the originals filmed in Atlanta, Georgia. Despite it seeming like Rebecca was killed off on the show, any fan of the originals knows that it is not that easy to kill an original, and thus there's always room for Claire to come back, at least for a grand finale of the show. And speaking of the originals and grand finales, Nina Dobrev took us all by surprise when she decided to leave her starring role as Elena on The Vampire Diaries after 6 years on the show. According to sources at E! News, Nina left the show because she was, quote, "simply probably ready to get some rest, reclaim some of her freedom, and move on to other opportunities. And while that's all understandable, it's hard to believe that her big breakup with Ian Somerhalder didn't have anything to do with it. But we're still holding out on the hope that we'll see Elena again before the series ends in March of next year. Moving on, it was no surprise when Charlie Sheen's 2.5 Men character, Charlie Harper, was written off after Charlie's very bizarre breakdown and consequent firing from the show. After having a very public meltdown and saying some pretty nasty things about 2.5 Men's creator Chuck Lorre, Charlie was fired and his character was written off the show in one of the most brutal ways, by being killed in a tragic accident in which he fell off a metro platform in Paris. Quote, exploded like a balloon full of meat. It just goes to show, when you're making millions from starring on a sitcom, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Next up, Adam Brody's beloved Gilmore Girls character, Dave Rogalski. He had to be written off the show after California came calling. Dave was one of our absolute favorite characters on Gilmore Girls. After all, he went above and beyond to win over Lane, even despite her crazy, strict, and religious Korean mom, Mrs. Kim. But Adam Brody was just too damn charming for his own good, and landed a huge role on the very successful show, The OC. In a pretty obvious turn, the Gilmore Girls writer had Dave move to California, where The OC is obviously located, thus leaving Lane and the rest of us completely brokenhearted. Okay guys, that's our list, so now I want to know, which actor did you miss the most after they were written off their show? Sound off in the comments section, and after that, click here to check out celebs who did crazy things for movie roles. Thanks so much for watching Listed, and be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, @Tom Plumley. You guys can find me on the socials, and I'll see you guys next time.